I don't know what that meant. I didn't know what was going on. And he told me that they had to revive him from this fentanyl, that they ended up giving him too much. They don't know what happened. They don't know. They had to figure it out, like do an investigation. And it was just all so much for me because I'm like, what are you talking about? What happened to my dad?
Welcome to Grief City.
Don't know how we ended up here. Blue sky, sunshine, it was all clear. I'm surrounded by all my worst fears. Yeah, it feels like a ghost
And
town.
remember, if this is your first visit, you are not alone.
Hey, and welcome to the Grief City podcast. I'm your host, Nuella, and I am so thankful to have you here today. So, today's episode is one that I have been so excited about and something so near and dear to my heart. So, I have my friend Aprill here today, and Aprill and I have faced quite similarities in our losses and how we lost our fathers. So I have such a heart to share these stories of people that went through COVID loss and complications with that and medical negligence. So I wanted to bring Aprill on the show today to share her story, share about her loss journey, and how she's found healing. So Aprill, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Of course. I'm so happy to have you. So happy to have you. So, just a little background for everyone. So, I've known Aprill, oh my gosh, has it been like a decade now at this
Yeah,
point?
at least.
Yeah,
At least.
wild. And we hadn't really touched base at all for several years because Jonathan and I left California. You are still in San Diego, and so we were out here. But we connected again. So, my dad died in September of 2021, and then April's father, a few months later, really, was experiencing a lot of the same things going on. So I would love to just start out with hearing about your dad, like who he was to you, and hearing about his personality, because I never got to meet him.
Yes, if you would have met him, you would have loved him.
I'm sure I would have.
You know, everybody did. That was it.
Yeah.
That was like when we did his celebration of life. I looked around and I was like, whoa, there's so many people here. Like,
Wow.
so many people that loved him and all the stories and all the things that I'd never heard before. And that was so great. I'm like, wow, my dad, he really was loved.
Isn't that so
So,
powerful when you look
yes,
around at that service? Oh,
yes.
nothing like it.
It was so amazing. And but to me he was so many things to so many people, and he was, you know, I feel like to everyone else he was the guy who would just, you know how you hear about those people that will do anything for you? Like, you know,
Mhm.
when you ask them, you have to be you can't be taking advantage of somebody. Like, you have to be careful what you ask him because he'll do it. Like,
Yeah.
when I told him, Dad, I really want to have I remember I wanted to have a wedding shower. I was getting married. It was my first marriage. And I'm like, I want a wedding shower and I want to do like a luau and I want sand on the floor. Like, that would be so cool, Dad. What did my dad do?
He did it, huh?
He took a truck to the beach, filled it up,
What?
and put sand all in his backyard,
He loved you.
and got a pig. He got a pig, and they were cooking the pig, and it was like we were in Hawaii. It was everything and more that I could have wanted. So you always had to be really careful
Wow.
of what you would
Yeah.
tell my dad, because he would just go to the ends of the earth for the people he loved. And I feel like I was so blessed because I was the only daughter, the only child. Come on. I got to experience all of this
You
just
were
for
the
me.
princess.
I know.
Yeah, I
it was
get that.
it was amazing. So I look back and I'm like, wow, I was really, 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 really blessed. Like, not a lot of people had the experience that I did with
Yeah.
my dad. So, and
Yeah.
he's funny, crack up. He would just always want to make you laugh or be laughing, and he was just like a deep thinker. He would always be a problem solver. You'd come to him with a problem and he would just be like, okay, let me think about it. I'll get back to you. And he'd think
Wow.
about it all night. And he would come up with the best solution for me, for my friends, for my cousins, for, just anyone in the family. He had like the answer, and it was always really good.
Yeah.
So,
He sounds like that person that, like you said, just he really is the epitome of like, I will give you the shirt off my back. I will do anything I can
yeah,
to make things good for you and well for
exactly.
you. That's a
Exactly.
beautiful human being.
Yes.
That's
And,
really special.
I look back and I'm like, he was never without. He always had, like enough, and he was always really happy. And like, we got to live by the beach together. We got to live together for like 7 years, which we didn't get before because my parents were divorced.
Yeah.
So I only saw him like every other weekend. So, but in my adult life, we actually got to really know each other better and actually like live with one another.
Wow.
And we were either living in the same apartment or we were living like I was upstairs and he was downstairs. So he was still always in close proximity.
That's so special because I feel like a lot of people don't get that in their adult life with a parent. That's so special. So he was always around.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's so special.
It was really good.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I'd love to hear, you can kind of take me back to, your dad starts getting sick. I'd love to hear his story. What kind of transpired with all that?
Yeah. There was, whenever my dad got sick, he always bounced back. He was really strong and not into doctors. Like he wasn't one to be like, let's go to the ER or let's go.
I feel like that's such a man thing.
Yeah, yeah,
Or
totally.
a dad thing.
Yes, and his like age,
Yeah. Totally.
like when he was born, and so he just always bounced back. So I really thought he's gonna be okay. You know what I mean? Like I was thinking, okay, he's gonna be okay. And then he called me and he was like, no, I think you need to come. And I'm like, okay. And then he'd call me like the next hour. No, it's okay. I'm okay. And I'm like, he goes, let's check in tomorrow. Do you know what I mean? It was like he wasn't really sure what, and I wasn't really sure. And because it was hard for him to express to me when he was down, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
When he couldn't handle things. So I ended up going over there, picking him up, taking him to the hospital, which was close to him in Apple Valley.
Okay.
And it was so different. I mean, obviously it was COVID. We were in a tent. We were outside. It was cold. Like
wow.
It was just a whole different. There was people in wheelchairs outside in the cold in the middle of the night, and I was just like,
wow,
what is going on here? This is, I don't know. It just felt weird and eerie. It was eerie. So, when my dad got in, I wanted to stay close to him, so I ended up staying in a hotel close by because I didn't know what they were going to say or what was going to happen, if I needed to be there right away. And they called me and they said, okay, he's got a bed. And I thought that was a blessing in itself. Like, He has
Yeah.
a bed, he's not in a wheelchair somewhere like I saw all these other people, and I thought, wow, he's getting favor,
Yeah.
in that situation. Like, okay, like he's getting favor, like, okay, God, you've got this, like, let's keep going. And then, it seemed like he was getting better. A few days went by, and I was there. I was just close by. It seemed like he was getting better. It was a whole up and down roller coaster where you think they're getting better, and then they weren't, and then they were. And so we had that roller coaster. And then he called me, and he's like, I'm tired. Like, I want to go
Yeah.
on the ventilator.
How long until, like, from when he got to the hospital to that point when he called?
I feel like it was a week.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like it was a week. And he's like, I'm tired. And I'm like, and everything in me was like, no,
Yeah.
like, don't do it. And I couldn't be there to like be his strength, like
Yeah.
how I would normally do. And I didn't want it. But
Yeah.
the nurse was there, and she was really kind. And she, walked me through everything. And all I could do was pray. I had no control. None.
Yeah, I feel like at that point too, I personally, I don't know about you, but I personally hadn't heard of any stories of people successfully coming off of a ventilator
No.
having had COVID. So I think that, because it was about a week for my dad too, I think
Yeah.
that terrifying phone call of they're going on the ventilator,
Yeah.
you're just like, your stomach drops because
Yeah.
you're like, I have faith, but it is really small right now.
Totally. Like,
Yeah.
minute.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was probably one of the worst parts.
Yeah.
Because then when they're on the ventilator, you're just thinking, okay, it's just one more day. Like, they're going to get off soon. Like, it's going to
Yeah.
be good,
Yeah.
Because every day that goes by is a day closer that you get to be there next to them too.
Yeah.
Because they have like a certain amount of time that they wouldn't let you there, and
Mm-hmm.
then they let you in, and you're just on standby, just like waiting.
Yeah.
When can I come in? And then once they let me in, I remember one day it was Super Bowl, and it was my dad's favorite team. Okay, so I came with the
No.
hat, I came with the t-shirt, I came with everything. And he was
You were
like,
decked
he
out.
was up, he was lucid, but he had the
Yeah.
ventilator in, which everyone thought that was
Interesting.
insane. Like, they're like, your dad's
Ah.
awake? And I
Wait,
go,
so was
yeah.
there ever a time he was unconscious on the
Yeah,
ventilator?
after.
So yeah, because I remember they would take the sedative down and they
Mhm.
wanted them to wake up. Interesting.
Mhm.
Okay.
But he
Okay.
was just, his lungs weren't ready yet.
Yeah.
And so they were just waiting, and he was, using gestures, like just trying
Yeah.
to communicate. And we watched Super Bowl together. He
Oh my
was like, "Ah," like he was like doing the whole, and I'm like, Dad, you can't do that. Like, you're gonna hurt your thing, like your vocal cords. You can't do that, Dad.
no.
And he didn't care, obviously. And all the nurses were talking about him, thinking he was like the coolest guy,
No.
because wow, like your dad, he's on the ventilator, he's cheering, he's like watching the game. No other patients were that like joyful, and like
Yeah.
that, like none of that was happening with anybody else.
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, okay. So that was really building my hope,
Yeah.
and that was just like, okay, like strengthening me. And I just felt like, we're gonna come through this. Like, his team
Yeah.
won the Super Bowl. Like, he's
Yeah.
gonna win. You know what I mean?
Like a sign right there, right?
Exactly. Like, I just thought, oh, he's gonna win. It's gonna be great. And then one night, I was there every day. All of this extended. This right here is just to stop really quick. This throat thing is just for people to know. it's a sign of grief when your throat gets
Tightening up and
starts
yep,
to tighten up. So,
yep.
okay.
You're good. You're
Yeah.
killing it.
Um, what ended up okay, so I was with him. I would drive up there every day, and one night I left and I was planning on coming back the next day. I had a job in the morning,
Mm-hmm.
and I got a call from one of the nurses, and he was an awesome nurse. I mean, still to this day, like, I have his phone number in my phone, and like, he was just a godsend, like, at that time for me. And my dad, he took really good care of my dad. I trusted him with my dad. I didn't trust all the nurses, but I
Yeah.
trusted him. So I could leave comfortably and relax, when I knew he was there with him. So he called me and he's like, told me that my dad had a fentanyl overdose. And I don't know what that meant. I didn't know what was going on. And he told me that they had to revive him from this fentanyl, that they ended up giving him too much. They don't know what happened. They don't know. They had to figure it out, like do an investigation. And it was just all so much for me because I'm like, what are you talking about? What happened to my dad? And they're like, oh, we have to just watch him the next couple of days. We have to make sure his organs don't fail. And I'm just like, wait, he's already dealing with his lungs.
Yeah.
And the COVID and trying to heal from that, and then now he's having to heal from this overdose that they gave him.
Yeah.
So it ended up that they gave him a full bag, like a bag, so it's supposed to drip out, and that was like your pain medication, just drips of it, so he wouldn't be in pain. And the whole thing went in within 15 minutes. The whole, like, I don't even know why he still lived.
Yeah, I'm really surprised that
Yeah,
he
after that, it
survived
was just a
even that.
huge. So they revived him, but he was never the same after that. He was never awake. After that, it was just they just kept him sedated, and they didn't. They kept saying, "Oh, we're gonna take the sedation off and what tomorrow," and then it was the next day, and then they just never moved like forward, and there was no progression from there.
Yeah.
It was just downhill from there. So
Wow.
I think that if there wasn't the fentanyl overdose, I think he probably would have made it.
Yeah, because just the fact that he woke up and was still on the ventilator, to get to that point alone,
Yeah.
that was like, I never heard of anyone doing that. So he had the overdose. Then how long was, like, I'm just trying to get an idea of like the timeline of things. How long then were things going of just not progressing?
Maybe like another 3 weeks. The huge thing was his organs weren't failing. So that was like hope. Like the nurses would say to me, his organs aren't failing, April. Like, we still have hope,
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, well, I still have hope too. Like, let's do this. And I don't know. And then it right towards the end, it was like everything just went kaput, just started going. And I feel like my dad held on for so long, like he was going through his process, And he's real stubborn. I mean,
That
he's
worked in his favor of
yes,
just keep holding. Yeah.
he's a fighter. And I
Yeah.
think he had so many people to fight for. And I think it was about him, like the time for him when he was ready to like let go. And for me too, like telling him like it's okay. Like I'm gonna be good.
Yeah.
And I had just started dating my husband 3 months before my dad got sick.
Yeah.
So Albert was with me. Albert was having conversations with my dad, while he was sedated.
Yeah.
But I know he could still hear.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely agree with you.
So, they had their personal conversations. Albert still hasn't told me all about them, but I'm sure it was like, hey, like I got your daughter. Like, I'm going to take care of her. I love her.
Yeah.
So, I think all of that was probably really peaceful for my dad and,
Yeah.
letting him release. And Albert was on his way the night that he passed away. Albert was on his way and to the hospital to meet me. And I was with my dad the whole day, just him and I knew it was going to be the day. Like I had the feeling, and I feel like God was preparing me. And I just talking to my dad all day and talking to the nurses and telling them all about my dad and all the stories and just like laughing. And Albert got there and it was within a half an hour of Albert being there. So like my dad could have passed when I was by myself, but he's like, no way. Like I'm not going to leave like my daughter alone by herself with no one with her. So he waited, and it was God's like grace that Albert was with me,
Yeah.
And right before he passed, I looked at Albert and I looked at the the curtains on the walls. There's curtains up, and it looked like sunsets. Or it could have been sunrise, you know what I mean? Like, when the little half color, look, that thing. And I go, wow, that looks like a sunset or it looks like a sunrise. And I go, I was telling Albert, I got a word about that. This young girl at church, her name's Bella. She's Lynette's daughter. She drew me a picture and she said to me, she goes, God is saying like to you, no matter what happens, it's gonna be a sunset or a sunrise, and both are beautiful.
Oof. When did she give you that word?
So that was probably a month before. So I was like, that was already embedding like into my heart. And when I saw the curtain, I told Albert about it. And that's when he went.
Wow.
Like right then. That's when he left. And
wow.
And it was the weirdest thing, Sarah, because I was filled with so much joy. I had never experienced death before like this. Mm-hmm. And I was so happy. It was I don't know. It was just weird. It was just I didn't understand why I was feeling that way. Someone said to me, "Oh, you're just in shock." And that didn't sit right with me. I was like, "No." And I later on, talking to God about it, he was like, that's the closest you've ever been to heaven.
I think that you hit such a powerful thing there. And I don't know what the experience is like for someone that doesn't have faith, but I completely agree with you. I think there is something that happens in that moment of seeing someone pass from life to death that is so deeply sacred.
Mm-hmm.
It's heart-wrenching, but at the same time, there is this like glimmer of hope and joy because when you believe in God, you know that this is not their end.
Yeah.
And you know that eternity with the Lord is the most joyful thing possible.
Yeah.
But that moment, like literally the veil is like, it doesn't even feel like there's a veil there. It's just like, you just feel like you're almost, it's like an outer body experience, I think,
really
in a
was.
way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't earthly. That's
Yeah.
the fact. It wasn't earthly.
Yeah.
It was very different.
Yeah. That's so
Unexplainable.
powerful how, and my siblings, my mom and I, we actually had a similar thing with my father where I was on FaceTime. I wasn't in the room, unfortunately, but my one brother who lived in Texas or Kansas at the time, he flew up that day. His flight didn't land until like 11 o'clock at night. My dad was off the ventilator all day. He was like, they were keeping him comfortable. He was breathing on his own all day. But we knew at that point he had had the stroke and there was no hope. But it was like 11:30 or after midnight. I can't remember the time. My dad waited until all of us were present and he passed. Same thing. And it's so interesting how they're conscious and I feel like they know what's going on.
Totally.
They know who's in the room and they can sense it. Mm-hmm. That's so powerful.
Yeah.
I've not gotten to hear anyone else's story about that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just so beautiful how God, even in the deepest depths of sorrow, like his grace and his love is there. Whew. Okay. Anyway,
so true.
That word got me. Whew, that got me. That's really powerful, though. And I'm so glad Albert got to experience that all with you. And what a heavy thing to walk into 3 months into dating.
Yeah.
But what a beautiful thing. And that just speaks to who he is as a person, too. And that's so beautiful. So your dad passed away. So how long was he in the hospital, like from time he got there to like he passed?
3 months.
3 months.
Yeah, it was 3 months.
Wow, that's a long time. He really is a fighter.
He is.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Wow. So after he had passed away, what were you like experiencing? What were you feeling and going through?
I went from, feeling all this unexplainable joy, and thinking that I was absolutely crazy in the moment. I was like, what is wrong with me? Like, my dad is like passing away right now. And you can feel, it's like, you can just feel the atmosphere and like the holiness, the mystical like sense of it all. Like it was pretty, it was amazing. Then, they come in and start asking you a bunch of questions and what do you want to do and where do you want to put his body? And you're just like, go away. like,
yeah, like the last thing you want to be answering to right now.
And I'm like, Albert, can you talk to, I don't even know. I can't, just leave me alone. And so, the great thing though was when I walked out of the hospital with Albert, my now daughters were there. So Layla and Zoe were there, Albert's daughters. And we all went out to dinner together. And
Wow.
we went to a restaurant and we ate chicken wings. And I talked to them about what had just happened. And I told them my experience.
Yeah.
And it was like, it wasn't a sad thing in that moment, you know? Right then it was like, wow, like this happened. It was like an awe moment, like, you know, and just explaining it to them and having that, it was like a bonding, you know, for our future family, for what,
Yeah.
you know, like our relationship is going to become, you know? So, and it was, they were like, hope for me, for my future, you know?
Yeah.
Albert and the girls
Yeah.
and the future family. I know I'd been only dating Albert for 3 months, but I knew.
Yeah.
Like after, I think it was 12 days, Sarah, I was like,
I'm not surprised.
I'm marrying that guy.
I love it. And just so everyone knows, they've knew each other
Yeah.
far before this time. It's just incredible
Yeah.
that this happened. Side note.
Yes. Thank you. Yeah. So they,
Wow.
yeah, they were just like my vision, my actual tangible vision of hope for the future that God like put before me on a platter. He was like, it's
Yeah.
gonna be okay, you know?
Yeah.
Like you've lost this person who was like your everything, and I'm gonna give you so much more, you know, to redeem this for you. And then now I have like 4 girls, an amazing husband. You know, I know that my dad is with me. I can feel him, you know, I
Yeah.
have dreams. I just, and there's things, miraculous things that happen in my life that could not have been without. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like my dad is
Yeah.
like, hey, Jesus.
Yeah. Hey, do that.
Yeah.
Bless her.
Yeah.
I feel that. Yeah.
You know? And I see
Yeah.
it in other people's lives too. Like, my cousin, the first doctor in our family, gets his degree on the day my dad passes away.
Wow.
3 years later.
Wow.
So 3 years later, he gets his degree to being a doctor. He's up on the stage the same day
Wow.
with a picture of my dad in his pocket.
Wow.
Like, okay, Dad, you know?
Yeah. That's so powerful.
Yeah. It was just April 23rd.
Wow.
What's today, the 5th? Yeah. So it's just, I see him
Yeah,
everywhere.
you feel him close. When I lost my dad, every single day I felt unmotivated and stuck. Sing text helped me gently move forward, and it gave me a small sense of purpose each day. Singing has always been therapeutic for me, but after loss, it became essential for my mental well being. Getting a daily text with my guided vocal training reminded me to take 15 minutes to do something good for myself. Singtex is my company, and it's also what makes this podcast possible. If you love singing and you want support for your voice and you want that creative outlet in your grief, Singtex is here for you. Try it with a 14-day pass for $5 at singtexofficial.com. See how your voice feels and see how singing can support your healing. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's so. You touched on like how after he died, it's like this person that was your everything is gone now. But how you felt God just blessing you with like, here's this family though, and they're going to come and surround you. And I think that's so important after such a deep loss like that. Like having something that you feel like brings you purpose. Because I feel
Totally.
like it's just so easy to spiral and just lose any sense of hope in life.
Yeah.
That's so powerful.
Yes. So much
So,
happens.
what was the experience like? Okay, your dad has passed. Like I always think those weeks and months after are always it really starts to set in. Like
Hmm.
you're like, wow, they're really gone. And we were still at the height of lots of opinions circulating about COVID and vaccines, no vaccines, like lots of things. What was your experience like? Did you have family members that gave you difficulty with things? I'd just love to hear
Yeah.
about your experience.
Um, I'm really, I'm really lucky that no one said anything to me.
That's incredible.
Sarah, no one asked
That's
me
incredible.
if he was vaccinated. No one asked me like anything. So
Wow.
I was so lucky. And
Yeah.
and on the other hand, it's like I didn't really know if he was or
Yeah.
not. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And I kind of left it like that. And I didn't really want to know. I just,
Yeah.
I don't want to know because I don't want to be charged in a conversation with anybody either, like,
Yeah.
so if anybody were to ask me, I'd be like, well, I mean, my dad's an adult. He could have done something and not told me or,
Yeah.
or whatever.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm really, really glad that I never had to have that conversation. And there was so much fear, though, like
Yeah.
tons of fear that I could feel from other people. But I just tried not to play into it, especially
Yeah.
when he was in the hospital,
Yeah.
I had to stay fear free as much as possible. Like,
That energy you
yeah,
bring into the room that matters so much
yeah.
with them. Yeah, I agree with you.
I had to stay, like, just block all of that,
Yeah.
junk out. And even too, like with going back to when we were in the hospital, there was a doctor in there, and he had told me that he didn't have any hope. And I said, okay, if you don't have hope, then I don't want you
Yeah.
as my doctor anymore. Like,
Yeah, I think that's fair enough.
like you don't, you're brought up, like I was brought up where, my family, we're fifth generation from Mexico. We looked at the medical community as like the be all, say all, like they know way more than we do. We don't have doctors in our family. Now we do.
Yeah, now you
Like,
do. Yeah.
like, like we didn't know anyone that was in the medical field,
Yeah.
because of our, like we just didn't, we came across,
Yeah.
like we just didn't have that. And we trusted the doctors. So what they said, we followed, and we were followers.
Yeah.
And then my generation comes up and I'm like, no, like I'm more holistic. I know that there's other ways, and I know that it's not everything. It's not just the one way, there could be other options. And then on top of that, I'm spiritual and I believe in healing too. So it's like a whole, whole thing. But so I think that played a lot into it too, where I don't know where I was going with that, but I fired the doctor. Oh, that was a big thing for me to
Yeah.
know that I could fire a doctor.
Yeah.
To think and have the mindset of like, wait a second, these people work for me and
Yeah.
my dad. Like, they're not like they're not the police. You know what I mean? We don't have to go by everything that they say. Because I was getting these
Yeah.
bills and I was seeing this was $500 and this was $100. The itemized bills that I was seeing, and I was like, wait a second, we're paying them for a visit.
Yeah.
You know, X amount of dollars. And I was like, okay, I'm paying that doctor to come and visit my dad. Then I should be able to say who comes and visits or not, which
Yeah.
doctor it is, you know? So
Yeah.
it
I
was,
feel like something people don't realize, and unless you had a loved one that dealt with COVID, and I mean, you know, if you have a loved one dealing with a serious thing in the hospitals, you've probably experienced this too. But especially during COVID, because of all the crazy stuff going on, all the fear going on, I think a lot of families felt like they couldn't speak up
exactly.
and they felt like they couldn't say something.
Mm-hmm.
And that's huge that you had that realization. Like, if you didn't feel like he was the best person to give care to your dad, like, that's good that you're like, nope, someone else.
Yeah,
Because there was far too much, I think, you could see with, and there was incredible medical staff. I will
totally.
never,
1,000.
ever, like, not give credit where it's due. But you could see there were staff members that were lacking empathy and that were growing weary, and
So
understandably
tired. Mm-hmm.
so. It was a difficult situation, but when it's someone's loved one, like life or death for them, like, you better show up.
Totally.
And so I think that's so powerful that you felt empowered to be like, no,
Yeah.
that's huge.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What was that like for you with, so when you guys found out about the overdose, how did you, like, did you communicate with any of the staff members? What did that
Mm-hmm.
conversation look like for you?
I talked to the head nurse,
Mm-hmm.
and she came in and she told me what happened, and I was fuming, you
Yeah.
know, I was pissed beyond. And she apologized. She said she was sorry that it happened, and that she's like, it's going to be written in his record and it's going to be in his file, and we don't really know what happened, but I'll get back to you. They got back to me a couple days later and they said it was a machine malfunction. So it wasn't any fault of the nurse or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
And that the machine's off the floor. The nurse had been on like a break, like a
Yeah.
timeout. I don't know what they call it, but she wasn't working for a few days while they investigated. So, yeah, I mean, that's what happened. And I don't really know. I mean, I still don't know,
Yeah.
like, what really happened. I have no idea.
Yeah.
And when the time came, I called a couple different lawyers and I
Mm-hmm.
was like, this is what happened to my dad. Because you don't have energy to do any of that at
It's
the time.
scary to call lawyers
There's
too.
no,
Yeah.
there's no, you don't have the capacity, you don't have
Yeah.
any of that, you know, in the moment. And I think it was like months later, and I told them what was going on. And they said that the hospitals were so covered. They were covered when it came to COVID, that if anybody died because of COVID, you couldn't sue, you couldn't really
Yeah.
take any action with anything. And I was like, okay, so just kind of shut it all down for me. And they said, oh, it's, you know, they always tell you it's going to cost you more to fight than it would for what they give you, you know?
Yeah.
So I just put it down. I had no,
Yeah.
I had no like recourse for my anger to go anywhere, you know? Like
Yeah.
my anger couldn't go into a legal battle. My anger couldn't go into like fighting with the staff, you know?
Yeah.
That my anger could only go to God. There was no place for it to go, you know? I had this new family developing that I needed to be present for.
Yeah.
And I was feeling so much love and excitement and joy for this like new relationship that I was having with Albert. And then that's where I wanted to be, you know? Like
Yeah.
that was the good sweet spot.
Yeah.
And it just I had no choice. Like I had to
Yeah.
go to the Lord. And I remember telling Albert one day, I was so like, I just felt so desperate. And I said, Albert, please, 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 please. He goes, what? And I go, do not let me let go of God. I want to let go. I want to let go so bad. I want to just fall. You know, I just want to like let go and be so mad at him. I wanted to just hate him forever for doing this, you know? And because in your mind, you're thinking this is all your fault. Like, I can't believe you let this happen, you know? And he looked at me and he goes, that's not going to happen.
So chill. So confidently.
Totally. He's like, that's not going to happen. I was like, really? Yeah, it was great.
Wow.
That was like the best thing. I needed that so bad because I really
Yeah.
thought that was it. Like, I'm going to just fall into the abyss, you know?
I think being people too, like if you're someone that believes in miracles and you've seen God do
Yep,
supernatural things,
totally.
when he doesn't come through on something that you thought he should and something you thought, like, he could heal, that is like the most mind, it would be a bad word to say.
I know what you're
It
talking about.
screws up your
It's a mind
brain.
F, totally.
Yeah, it really
Mhm.
is. It screws up your brain, and it is such a struggle to work through
Mhm.
that anger. But, I remember someone messaged me a while ago on social media, saying like, I'm really struggling with my faith after loss. And I think the biggest thing, if someone has lost, that they could walk away with is that God is not offended by your anger.
Totally.
He is not hurt when you curse at him and you get
Mhm.
angry.
Mhm.
Like, he welcomes that.
Yep.
Do you feel like you had a time of like wrestling with that for a
Oh,
while, or was
yeah.
that a short season for you?
I'm trying to remember. I know it was definitely there. I don't remember how long it was.
Yeah.
It's probably like 3 months, like 3 to 6 months, probably. Like where I didn't know what direction I was going. I was very stuck
Yeah.
in deciding what I was gonna do. Because when you're in the middle, it's like so uncomfortable, this place of like, am I going to step into anger and hate and bitterness, or
Yeah.
am I gonna go to forgiveness? What am I gonna
Yeah.
do? What choice am I gonna make? And you're in the middle and it's so uncomfortable.
It is. Yeah.
It's so
Not a good
uncomfortable.
place.
Yeah,
You hate every day. You
Yeah.
hate everything. Like, everything feels horrible.
Yeah, you can't do anything, you can't create, you
You're
can't.
like, everything I built my life on might be a sham.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like everyone has lied to me, and I've lied to
Yeah.
myself, and
Well,
I've like, you go over all the things of what God has done in your life. Like all the
Mm.
things, miracle after miracle. And I have been out on the streets and like to in public and prayed for people and seen them get healed. I've seen so many amazing things happen and heard so many real testimonies and stories. And I was just like, really? You couldn't do this? You know? And it just came down to, you know, finally being able to hear God. Because I think in stages like that, it's really hard to hear him for yourself, you know, and that's why it's really good to be in community and, you know, have like a good support system to hold you up during those times. But when I finally got to a place where I could hear God, it was more like, you know, your dad has free will. And I was like, oh, okay. You know, like your dad has free will. And I think that was a huge release for me, you know, of like, okay, my dad was ready. And it was his choice, and it made sense that he was fighting and battling. I could just see him like battling with Jesus, like throughout the time going by, you know what I mean? And like, I just was like, okay, he had free will. And I have to honor that, you know, and what he wanted, and not just about me, what I wanted, you know? So
Yeah, I remember
that
that
helped.
about 8 months after I lost my dad, because I was same boat as you, just angry, bitter. I was so sick of hearing people talk about COVID and tell me their opinions about it, like all the things. And I remember it was like just this one moment. I'm like, okay, God, I've heard you all my life. I haven't heard you for 8 months. Give it to me. Come at me. Let's see if we hear something. And the same thing. I remember God saying, your dad chose me. He
Yeah.
wanted me.
Yeah.
And that's like it's like something like that suddenly just brings like some of that burden off your shoulders.
Totally.
Because sometimes I think when you know that a miracle could have happened, there's this unhealthy thing that comes in where it's like, I should have prayed harder. I should have done more. I should have worshiped more intently or fasted or just all these things. It's like you put this blame on yourself, but it was never you.
Yeah.
It was God, and really it was that free will element. And I think that's so powerful that you had that moment with the Lord, though, because I think a lot of people that have faith but experience a loss that's so tragic and so unfair, too, they struggle with that why God. And some people just cut him off completely.
Totally.
And it breaks my heart because I think if you just keep pressing in and pressing in, like God will give you that answer.
Yeah, he will. And whatever the answer is for that person, what they need to hear, what's going to mend their heart, you know, like specific and personal to them, you know?
Yeah.
So it may not be the same answer that we got, you know, for someone else.
Yeah, absolutely. So how, after that moment, what has like healing looked like for you?
Healing has looked like filling out. I remember first it was filling out the paperwork I had to fill out.
Yeah.
Being the only child, like, you know, 6 months later, I'm holding on all this paperwork that I'm supposed to fill out and phone calls I'm supposed to make, you know?
Yeah.
That was part of the healing. And that took support. Like someone next to me, you know, like holding my hand. Like I remember Kara Sully came over.
Yeah.
And she actually like took the paperwork and wrote for me. like I couldn't write, you know what I mean? But I
Yeah.
could speak and tell her what I needed to say, and she would write everything down for me. She's like, okay, come on, April, we're almost done. We've got like 10 more pages. Like,
Only 10 more.
you know, I'm like,
These horrible legal documents.
yes, it's just crazy. And so she's like, come on, we got to do this. And I'm like, okay. And she, helped me through it. And that was like step one, of
Yeah.
the healing process. And, and then I knew how powerful forgiving was, and I knew how powerful like my thought life was. And so I kept everything at bay. So,
Yeah.
people really left me alone as far as like asking me to do things, or I didn't promise myself to anyone. And I just sat with my my thoughts that would come in, and I would just go through each one,
That's good.
like a picture of the doctor that I fired came in, wanted to blame him. So I'd walk through that and forgive him. And then, for not caring about my dad. And then, the nurse that gave the fentanyl, like, to my dad, never saw her face. I don't even know who she was. I had to forgive her and like release that. Like, so it was just a whole process of all these people that I could have, really blamed and put it on.
Yeah.
And, most importantly, God, like we talked about, that was a huge one. Just not letting go of him, just staying held on and actually speaking about to someone, like telling Albert, telling my pastor, like, I don't want to hold on anymore. Like, I don't want to. I'm not saying I'm not going to, but I don't want to. And so saying those things out loud and those deep inner thoughts, I think was really important, because it was kind of like you're confessing what you're feeling. And then I think it helps you. It helps you to open up to God and like let him come in and help adjust things in your heart. And there was meetings and conversations, like one-on-ones with my pastors, Borny and Micah, and just letting them tell me their experiences, of death, and letting them help me to push through with the celebration of life ceremony, where I was like, I'm not doing that. Why do I have to put this thing on? Like, what are you, did you experience that too? I'm like,
Yeah. That week after they have died, it's just like, can you stop requesting things of me to do? Like, I'm fed up. I don't like, stop bringing me food. I'm
yeah,
so sick of it.
right? You're just
Yeah.
like, you want me to plan a party
Yeah. Pretty much.
for my dad, like, and for you. Like, you want me, and like, I was just like, no.
Yeah.
And I remember Borny said to me, she goes, this is my pastor, Borny. She said, April, this is actually going to be really beneficial for you.
Yeah.
And I couldn't even fathom how it could be beneficial for me. I was like, how is this going to be beneficial for me?
Are you crazy, lady?
I know. I was just like, okay. But it was great because we had already had built trust from years, previous. So I trusted what she said. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
But that, I always go back to community. I needed community and relationships that I had built over years' time to help me through this. I needed that so bad. And I look back now and I'm like, wow, God, you had me in the right place at the right time with the right relationships, building those for this time. It was just so beautifully orchestrated. I couldn't have done it.
Yeah. It's truly not a journey that one can really do all by themselves. That
No.
you can try. I've tried, but it's really hard.
Yep.
It's really, it feels, I think when you try to go this journey all alone and try to seek healing all by your own will, it just feels like you are slowly dying every
Totally.
day.
Exactly.
And it feels like it will take you out. But you truly do, you need to be okay with accepting help,
Yep.
which is really hard to do.
Yep.
But it's so healing.
Yep.
It's so healing. That's so powerful. That's so powerful. And like now, so what's it been, about 3 years since
Yeah.
your dad's been gone?
Yes.
Like, what does life look like for you now?
I'm a mom now of twins, and
Beautiful twins.
they're so fun. They're 17 months
cute.
old. I'm married now. I got him, Albert. And he's amazing, and he says things, and he reminds me of my dad.
Oh, so
It's
special.
crazy. Like the things that he says or the things that he likes, or I'm like, oh, my dad likes that, or my dad would say that, or, you know, and Albert's so open to hear so many stories about my dad. And so I get to talk about my dad all the time.
Yeah, that's huge.
Yeah. And that's always fun. And then I have a picture of my dad in the living room, right by the girls' toys. So it's like eye level for them, you know, when they're grabbing their toys, like my dad's just right there. And then right above,
There's one of them.
that's one. Here comes the other one. The
It's like
pitter-patter.
they knew they were being talked about.
I know, exactly. They're like, you talking about me? I know. Right above his picture is a picture. It's like a painting, and it has hope on it. So, I don't know, that just brings me a lot of peace. Just being able to see his smiling face. And a lot of it too is when I think about my dad, I think, man, I wish I could see him with my girls. You know, I wish I could, I hear him telling me stuff all the time about Layla and Zoe, like, oh, just let him have it, or, oh, just buy them that, or like, you know what I mean? Like, because I know how he is, and like,
You would have been a sucker for him.
totally, and
Everything.
I just feel like he would have been totally cramping my parenting style.
The boundaries would not
Totally.
exist.
No, none. None. So I hear him all the time, and like, yeah,
He's
I
always
still
with you.
celebrate him, you
Yeah.
know, when the times come, and I go eat at his favorite spot, or eat his favorite pie, or like,
Yeah.
you know, I think about how he would be so stunned, because I used to tell him, I'm like, Dad, I'm gonna have kids, like, it's gonna happen, like, you're gonna be a grandpa. And he's like, yeah, right. Like, he just was like, he didn't really believe he just thought I was like shenanigans, all my hopeful ideas and thoughts, and then he would see them come to pass, and he was like, what? You said you wanted to do that, and you did it. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Like, he, you know, he would see all these things, and then he would go off and he would tell everybody about it. So he was like, he would always be my like testimony giver. He would tell my testimonies.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah. But I just, I'm very, you know, I'm sad that he's gone and he's not here. But it's not just about like, oh, you know, he's in a better place, you know. It's not just about that. It's more like about being grateful and recognizing like how good I had it, you know, with him, and like how I had such an amazing, you know, time with him when he was here.
Yeah.
So just recognizing all those things, I think is
Yeah.
great.
He sounds like he was such a special person, and being the only daughter too. I had two brothers, but being the only daughter, there is nothing like that really close father-daughter bond. And it's definitely a void you feel when they're gone each day, but it's so beautiful to hear about your healing journey and how your heart has found forgiveness, because unless you're someone that knows what that's like, to like something that could have been prevented and something that you couldn't get that earthly like justice for in the court system, and just all the things like that, that is a large burden to bear. And to find forgiveness, I don't know if many people do that in their lives, and I feel like a lot of people go their whole lives feeling bitter, but the weight that gets lifted off of your shoulders when you
Yes.
just let it go is so profound. And it truly just opens like the floodgates to
Yes.
healing and joy and more blessings and beauty in life.
Yes.
So if
1,000.
there was anything you could tell someone right now that may be in a situation where they've just lost someone, and maybe it's something that could have been prevented or is just a really difficult situation, like what would you tell them?
I tell them to, you know, really turn to their family.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's your family's going to show up like you've never experienced before, and it's a beautiful thing, you know. People in my family have been so amazing, and like it's built an even more beautiful relationship, you know. So I'd say like turn to your family, your community, and like don't let go of God. Like don't let go. Like just hold on, even if it hurts, you know, like even if you don't want to, just hold on to God. And if you were never holding on to God, get on, like grab on, you know. This is the time, like this is the moment where you're going to be in a position where you can really get to know him really fast. You know.
Yeah.
So yeah, like family, community, and don't let go.
Yeah, it's powerful. Well, I think you are so brave for sharing your story and sharing your walk with forgiveness. I think just let alone, a lot of people don't realize this kind of stuff was happening with COVID patients, and that's just a brave thing in and of itself to share. But it's so powerful to hear you talk about all this, and I mean, I'm touched deeply too. And just so it's just beautiful to see someone like go from, wow, I've lost something that felt like everything in my life, and pick up the pieces and still make a beautiful life for yourself. So I think your dad is very proud of you. You should feel proud of yourself. You've made a beautiful life for yourself, and I'm so thankful you shared this all with me today.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
I have one more thought. Is that okay? Can
Yeah.
we like clip
Go
it
for
in
it. Yeah, go for it.
or cut it in? I don't know how you do that. The last thing that I was thinking that is really important is there's a Bible verse, and I wish I knew it off the top of my head, but it talks about there being a reward in your oh my gosh, the words. Sorry, I'm gonna have to say this again.
You're fine.
Oh, okay, I got it.
Okay.
Okay, so there's this takes like a an endurance to like actually hold on to God, but it also says in the Bible that there's a reward when you do that. So like when you don't let go, there is a reward. And I remember hearing that Bible verse in church, and this was like while I'm sitting with my family and I'm married, and hearing that Bible verse, which I want to get it. I should know it off the top of my head, but and looking over and being like, this is my reward, you know, for holding on and not letting go, even though I wanted to.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, there is blessing that comes.
yeah,
If you are someone listening that's struggling to hold on, like we both can testify that there is blessing that comes when you hold on.
Yeah.
And there is peace that comes when you hold on. And it's really hard to explain, but somehow, some way, God intervenes and he shows himself again to you.
yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah, well, thank you for coming on and sharing your story. I'm just so grateful to have had this conversation with you today.